I got rejected over 20,000 times, let me tell you. Wasn't fun. I can remember some of them vividly. When it comes to rejection, I think a lot of people have anxiety of rejection, right? Like fear of rejection. They're so worried about what will happen. But then you get your first no of the day and you're like, oh, I'm alive. Nothing happened. Cold calling, it's sort of like the gym. You don't want to do it. Like trading legs, it's not fun. You don't go into the gym and think, oh, I can't wait to get, achy legs and feel weak. But the results from the end of it, where you see the results, you see your strength, you see your body, like that is what's worth it. So same with a cold call. Like I don't wake up in the morning thinking, oh, I want to get rejected 50 times today. But I know that's what's going to help me build my pipeline and get my yeses. The reason I was able to consistently hit quota and not just have one good month and then fall off is because I had systems in place. So it was much easier to do the same thing because I just had to do the same actions, right? So we go out at 9 a.m., we come back at 7. I'd be on 0 at 6 p.m. So that's like 7 hours of going up to people face to face. You can't drop that. So you have to constantly be smiling, engaging. So we take no's for 7 hours, but I'd still be able to hit my target within the last hour. And it's all because of systems, right?
Hey, welcome back to the SDR Hire podcast. I'm your host, Serba, and if you are new to the channel, this is a place where you can learn from top-producing salespeople what it's like working in tech sales, how do you break in, what do companies look for, and how to succeed as an SDR, all for free. Today, I'm chatting with my friend Aaron Reeves from Revolut. As of this month, Aaron's serving as Revolut's account executive. So he will tell us how he got there and how's the first month been so far. But before that, just a short intro for Aaron. Aaron started as a SDR for mid-market in 2022 in Rigo. And after hitting 440% quota consistently, he moved up in enterprise sale after only 6 months. Aaron was acquiring mid-market and enterprise accounts with quota attainment in Q4 2023 with 129%. Those are just huge numbers, and Aaron will tell us more about how did he do it, what's the success life, and obviously share with us some secret. And the new year brought the highlight of Aaron's outbound sales career, as he was recently appointed as account executive for SMB in Revolut, helping customers get more from their money. Or if I might say, maybe not more money, but at least more visibility and more control. Welcome, Aaron, to the show. Hope I didn't miss anything important from your background. Please feel free to add anything that might be relevant.
So we smiling along. No, appreciate it.
Yeah, all right. That's good. Obviously, I was preparing a little bit, so no. Thanks for this. Aaron, where should I start? Let me just say the first thing: you managed to close 81 deals in 2023. So I have to start by asking you, what most of them had in common and what made you so successful? 81 deals within a single year, that's a huge number. So can you share some secret with us?
Yeah, for sure. So in terms of, the main thing, what was sort of between all the deals, there's no like secret sauce. I'm not going to tell you one thing, it's going to change your whole year. So apologies for that, Server. But no, on a serious note, I'd probably say the most important thing was just following up, right? I'm sure you know it as well from your experience in tech sales, but when it comes to touch points and, actually speaking to prospects, you're not just going to fire across an email, then they're going to hand over the bank details and say, get me on board, right? Like it's all about staying persistent with touch points. So for myself, when I was working at Frugo, as you mentioned, as an SDR, the most important thing was having an omni-channel approach. So for example, giving them a call, then sending them an email, follow-up email, LinkedIn connection, like just getting as many different touch points in, because you never know where they're going to respond, right? Like someone could love a call, someone could hate call, someone could only do emails, someone could never check it like me. So when it comes to it, I'd probably say just following up and staying persistent was the best thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. And persistence, and you mentioned a multi-channel approach and like consistency overall. I have to share with the audience, I just, I like your post on LinkedIn today, how you work the commission face-to-face sales in 2021, I think it was. and like you had to speak to 100 people a day, like almost 6 weeks, 6 days a week. And on average, you would get like 20, 30 yes and like 600 no's. And how do you deal with rejections and still keep pushing? Those are just like insane numbers.
Yeah, I was gonna say the first you reference it again, it's sort of I got rejected over 20,000 times, let me tell you. Wasn't fun. I can remember some of them vividly. But no, when it comes to rejection, I think a lot of people have anxiety of rejection, right? Like fear of rejection. And that's like a big stumbling block for a lot of salespeople where they're so worried about what will happen. It's much worse than actually getting a no, if that makes sense. I don't know if you can relate, but like, when you're gearing up for a cold call, you get butterflies thinking, oh, what if they say no? What's gonna happen? But then you get your first no of the day and you're like, oh, I'm alive. Nothing happened.
I'm still
Um,
alive, and it's nothing
yeah,
personal. They're not saying no to me. They're probably saying no to my product or my company, but not to me. Like, so just don't take it personally. I think that makes way easier for everyone once you understand this. Yeah.
Yeah, 100. When it comes to sort of not taking it personal, the best thing, again, it's sort of within the post, but it's just sort of using systems. So the only reason I was able to not want to sit in a corner and cry when I got told no, there was days when, for example, as you mentioned, we'd speak to 100 on average, right? But there'd be days where, so we go out at 9 a.m., we come back at 7. I'd be on 0 at 6 p.m. So that's like 7 hours of going up to people like over the phone. It's not bad. Like you get a no, you can just sort of do whatever. Face to face, you can't drop that because the next person can see you. So you have to constantly be smiling, engaging. So we take no's for 7 hours, but I'd still be able to hit my target within the last hour. And it's all because of systems, right? Like, I'm sure again, it's something you can relate to, but focusing on the input because that's going to, bleed to the output. So talking to enough people, having those conversations, not being worried about if they say yes or no, because that's going to come regardless. Just focusing on getting a consistent input.
That makes sense. And sometimes like for first 7 hours, you just keep getting all these no's. And then on the very last hour, like you start getting finally yes, and you start booking meetings. And somehow magic happens. So the great point you had like with consistency and I guess having a clear workflow and like hitting numbers day by day, that makes difference. Um, as an SDR, you were consistently hitting your quota. I have to say, great job. I look your resume; it's awesome, and I just would like you to share with the audience how does your weekly calendar look like. We just mentioned some activities, but can you maybe go into a bit details and explain like activity volumes?
Yeah, for sure. So when it comes to sort of calendar, I'm a bit of a nerd for structure, right? Like I love numbers, I love structure. And the main reason is if you have a structure, it makes it repeatable. So for example, the reason I was able to consistently hit quota and not just have one good month and then fall off is because I had systems in place. So it was much easier to do the same thing because I just had to do the same actions, right? So when it comes to the actual calendar, it's pretty straightforward. The first sort of 45 minutes, 30 minutes was just responding to emails because obviously from clients I'm talking to, trying to close, it'd be quite a few. So just dealing with that. The next half hour would actually be on pipeline, cleaning it up. I'm sure every sort of salesperson can relate, but our pipelines don't look pretty sometimes and taking the time to just
We just don't like filling in the CRM. It doesn't feel good, right?
no, no, exactly that, like filling it in, using filters and having everything segregated, like, sales we wanna close deals, we don't wanna be doing admin, but taking that time aside to sort of give yourself the everything structured, it just means you're more efficient when you are using your CRM because 'cause you're not scrolling through 8 pages trying to find a deal, it's just all simple. And then in terms of the blocks, I'd say it's something what you can chop and change, but this is actually something when I joined Fruga, I spoke with the managing director of mid-market sales called Marie. She was an amazing manager if she's watching. But no, on a serious note, we went through it together because I had a few ideas in terms of how to structure a workflow. And it's something they actually use now in their onboarding training, which is pretty cool, like their playbook. But the main thing is having 1 hour blocks per activity. So it doesn't matter if you want to do calling first or email first or prospecting, but having a 1 hour block with 25-minute Pomodoros. Have you ever heard of them as well? Just out of curiosity. Where you have the 20-minute focusing and then the 5-minute rest for anyone listening, just so you can stay focused on the task at hand, right? So for myself, I started my day with calling. So I had an hour calling block, then an hour prospecting block, hour email block, lunch, and then just got back to it.
Would you call people on Monday mornings or Friday late afternoons?
Hey, I would call people every single day.
Wow,
No,
man.
but
I just like this attitude. That's why I'm asking. And like you mentioned several times, like consistency, and obviously that's very important, like traits. But can you also say what are some maybe other traits that make successful SDRs?
for sure. So in terms of traits, I think the most important thing is just being coachable. Um, if you're brand new trying to break into tech sales, or even if you're a seasoned SDR, etc., AE, having that coachable mindset and just dropping your ego. Like when I started at Fruga, I'd worked in sales before, I'd done well, but I'd never worked in tech sales. So I didn't go in thinking I'd be the best or know everything. I just went in wanting to learn from the people already doing it. It's the same at Revolut, right? Like I've just joined. I did well at Frugo, and a few posts have done well on LinkedIn, but that means nothing, right? Like it's all important. In my first 2 weeks, I've networked with over 10 top AEs, learning from them, understanding their processes. So if you have a coachable mindset, then you're always going to learn and develop.
That's great. And I just recently start seeing your posts. Does that mean that you are building your personal brand as well?
Maybe we'll see this year.
All right, man. I would definitely encourage you because personal brand is very important, and obviously selling, social selling, and making sure people know you before you even reach out to them is so much, important. And personal brand can really help. So keep up the good job. I've been seeing your posts lately, and I just want to encourage you just to, to keep pushing, and you'll do great. Uh, uh, Aaron, one more thing: 50% of all your deals you closed in 2023 started with a cold call. So you had to be good with cold calling, obviously, right? Can you break down for us your famous pitch framework? What is it about? And maybe just kind of give us some more details about your famous cold calling framework.
Yeah, for sure. So the pitch framework, for anyone who doesn't know, it's basically just a quite a simple cold calling framework what I posted about on LinkedIn, and I think a lot of people, I think like over 900 people wanted it and stuff, and have learned from it, which is great. So yeah, the actual framework itself, it's nothing revolutionary. I'm not a genius for creating it. It's just quite a simple approach. But if we can break it down as you mentioned. So the first thing, the P, is just a permission based opener. So I'd love your opinion on this actually, because it was quite divided in the comments where most people agreed, but a few people disagreed. So for my for myself on a cold call, like I'd always like to sort of just gauge if they're actually interested. So like, hey server, and then go into it's Aaron calling from Revolut. Did you have 30 seconds to hear why I'm reaching out? And then just leaving it to them. Is that something you do, or is it more closed questions?
Yeah. Do you want to hear my opinion about openers?
I do. I would love it.
Yeah, I read some of the comments, and as you said, they are somewhere divided. I think that permission-based opener lowers your status. And in enterprise sales, and I've been in enterprise sales, somehow it just did not work. I'm not saying I am like 100% opposed to permission-based opener, but more like maybe European style, or if I might say UK style, but less US style. And what I've been seeing since I was reaching out to the decision makers, some of the very large companies, mainly consulting companies, big four, they really want me to, kind of start, start with the pitch and really kind of cut to the chase and, like avoid any kind of, things that might be like, wasting their time. So it might lower your status, but, I also agree that, it's out of politeness and, just asking people for maybe 30 seconds on or 1 minute might work as well. Just acknowledging them that this is a cold call, so you are kind of letting them know ahead of and makes sense. But so I'm kind of using both, to be honest. And I know you are crazy for you go all the way with a permission-based opener, so it's good.
Yeah, I was gonna say though, like exactly what you've just mentioned. I think that's the most important thing, right? Like it's all based off your ICP. Like as you mentioned, in the UK, compared to like for example the US, if I said, "Hey, how are you?" on a call in the UK, I'd get, it wouldn't get anywhere. Like that just doesn't, for me personally, again, and that's probably my ICP. But going that classic route in the UK, it doesn't work too well. And I think there's a lot of like UK specific sales influence. I'm trying to think of a few like I can't remember their name off the top of my head, but they have a business called the second best sales agency in the UK, and they bang on about permission based. So yeah, just finding what works to your ICP is super important, right? And going from there.
But just great. You've been successful, closing deals with a cold call as a start. So, this pitch framework, you've been, kind of, writing even on the LinkedIn, it seems to be very, very good one, and it's really working well. So, I think more and more SDRs have to start calling, right? Somehow we don't feel good calling, we don't want to call. Everybody seems to be, kind of good with writing emails, even personalized emails, maybe LinkedIn messaging as well. But, with the cold calling, somehow, like not all of SDRs want to do it all the way. And
That that's exactly it, right? Like I was gonna say, obviously we can go through the rest of the framework, quickly as well. But I think like cold calling, it's sort of like the gym. Like you don't want to do it. Like it's not fun hurting and training. Like training legs, it's not fun. You don't go into the gym and think, oh, I can't wait to get, achy legs and feel weak. But the results from the end of it, where you see the results, you see your strength, you see your body, like that is what's worth it. So same with the cold call, like I don't wake up in the morning thinking, "Oh, I wanna get rejected 50 times today." But I know that's what's gonna help me build my pipeline and get my yeses. So it's sort of like motivation versus discipline. Like, you're not gonna be motivated to call right, but it's having the discipline to do it anyway and do it well.
absolutely. That's another important trait. Yeah, that's just another very important trait of successful SDR discipline, just like you mentioned. And I like this comparison, cold calling with like going to gym, and it's like obviously you don't like neither, but you have to be disciplined. You just have to do it, and so that's just good mindset. Yeah. Would you like to add anything else from the pitch framework, or?
Yeah, I was gonna say in terms of the rest of it, it's pretty straightforward. So the second thing is just about yeah, like identifying challenges. So just understanding their pain points and tailoring your pitch based off that. Closing, in terms of closing, you're not trying to get them to buy right then. You're closing the next steps, which is, booking a meeting and then just highlighting the next steps and making it nice and straightforward.
All right, those are just great, and thanks for giving all these details about pitch framework. Obviously, it's been very successful for you, and I think it's going to be also very successful in 2024. And like you mentioned, like a multi-channel prospecting, obviously, like reaching out prospects on a different channels. Is there a one channel in particular that brings the best results? Again, we mentioned that not all accounts are the same, not all prospects are the same. Like geographies, also we talked about geographies as well. Like, but is there like one channel that you would probably say is like must have, like in your multi-channel, and which one would that be?
Great question. And again, exactly like you've just sort of said, there isn't like a silver bullet where if you do this one channel, you're gonna, book tons of meetings or close loads of deals. But I'd probably say cold calling genuinely. And sort of linking on from the reasons what you mentioned before. I think everybody loves to send personalized email, a message, because it's not as involved, if that makes sense. Like you send your email, it's off, it's done. Whereas when you're on the phone, like you're actually dealing with the person. So I feel like a lot of people become a bit like nervous or angsty around it because they're a bit, sort of scared to do it, if that makes sense. Just to actually get like rejection on an email. I'm sure you can agree to this versus rejection on a call. If somebody says no on an email, you just think, oh, whatever. When you get told no on the phone, it's a different feeling, right?
Aaron, I like to say that cold calling is as human as it gets, right? You get to hear, if you talk about the outbound sales and, like the cold calling, email, LinkedIn message, it just seems that, people, talking with a real prospect on the phone, it's really human. And, obviously, getting no's on the phone feels a bit different than like having these negative replies via email. So I know what you mean on this. So probably another thing, we talked about a multi-channel prospecting and, different ways we reach out prospects. So what would be the best tools for prospecting? What do you use? Like, let's talk a little bit about tech stacks and what do you guys have in your arsenal?
Yeah, for sure. I was gonna say, I think again, this is a really basic stuff. What I think is super important, like sales nav, obviously filters, and using it to sort of prospect from there. Never bounce is like a little niche one, what I quite like. So, for example, if you prospect on LinkedIn, you find an account what looks good, but there's no contact details, using never bounce to find the email format of the company to then, have a touch point through email. It's quite good. Um, but yeah, I also use Loom as well. It's a little random one. I didn't want to go with, I didn't just want to sit here and say the big ones what everyone uses, like Gong and all that sort of stuff.
You probably use Loom for personalized videos, right?
Yeah, exactly. Just sort of personalization to stand out because you don't just want to be the noise, you want to stand out from the noise. But in terms of the best tech stack and that sort of thing, I'd say the most important thing is just your outreach, not so much the tools you have, if that makes sense. Because in different companies, there's different stacks. Like, I've used multiple different tools before, but as long as you have good value-based personalized messaging, you'll get through to people. Like, tools are great, but it shouldn't be a crutch, if that makes sense, where it's like, "Oh, I have to have Gong or I won't do well. I have to have XYZ." But yeah, I literally just use the basics in terms of at Revolut, because with regulations and that sort of thing. So we just use Sales Nav, and that's about it, really.
Is there any AI assistant tool you're using in your outreach at the moment? We know that AI is kind of a big thing, and we all have to, kind of use it. So, do you use any support, from AI, ChatGPT or tools like that?
Yeah, for sure. So again, at Revolut, it's a thing with again, there's certain tools you can and can't use. So like Lavender is a great one in terms of emails to get it rated, but it's a plugin what I can't use at Revolut. So when it comes to it, the minute I'm very sort of bare bones, which I enjoy, right? Because it's more focused on actually doing the research, crafting good personalization yourself. But Lavender's a great tool. Obviously, Chat GPT as well, just to sort of make a buyer persona matrix and that sort of thing. But yeah, that's the main. I'm not too much into AI. I'm not a great tech guy, to be honest. So I'm quite basic with the from the AI front.
No problem. We are all. It's obviously at the beginning stage, but it will be growing, and I guess we all have to learn as soon as possible because one thing about Chat GTP, probably one thing it's important to understand that it's delivering probabilities, not thinking like humans do. So the quality of prompts is crucial for to get the best outcome. So I think that's the main thing. I just see people kind of typing any prompts and expecting to get really good results, but that's not how it's working. This is not like machine that does the thinking. It delivers certain probabilities. So you need to be very careful, very detailed, right? Very specific with the prompts, and the better you become with like feeding machine with the prompts, the better outcome you will be getting. So I would expect it, like obviously, that SDRs will have to work probably in tandem with many different AI tools in future just to make the most effective outbound sales. So you know yeah, I'm glad that we are on the same page on here. And Aaron, you've been an SDR with hitting your quota month by month in a, I would say, very consistent way. And now you are account executive. So I have to ask you, like, SDR and account executive relationship is crucial in driving revenue growth. As an SDR, how did you manage this relationship?
Yeah, for sure. So in terms of again, the relationship is so important because it's not like you're not below your AE, you're with them, and that's the sort of mindset you should have, right? So with my AE, I'm still good friends with him now, Samuel Williams. First ever AE, good friend now, great guy. But no, when it comes to the relationship, one thing what I think super important is to have a call every day, every 2 days, just to sort of touch base, understand where you are in your pipeline, how the deals are progressing in terms of, the ones you sent over. Because especially at my previous role when I was an SDR, I, so for example, I'd pass something over to my colleague, my AE, and then my AE would have to get them to confirm a few things. And once they've filled in the form, then that's when I get paid my commission, right? So it's not just like as soon as it's sent, I get paid. It's like once they've done a step, they get paid. So I had to have a great yeah, so I had to sort of have that relationship with him to understand where we are. So I think just taking sort of 10, 15 minutes in the morning to sort of go through your pipe with your AE, understand where you are, and just genuinely get to know them as a person, right? Because, just like you, that they're a person outside of tech sales. So understanding what makes them tick and yeah, just having that relationship is so important.
That's good. I cannot agree more with you. And honestly speaking, in some organization, it feels like SDRs are a bit below account executives. And I like your point that we are really, in the same line. And, most importantly, I think we are the part of the same team, right? It's a sales overall. So we are like both there. SDRs, account executive, customer support. I think we are all like within the one team. And I like this workflow where you guys have regular meetings, even daily or every other day, like 15 minutes, just to align probably on different accounts and different outreach strategies. And this is really helpful, and hope more and more orgs will have such a smooth, let's say, relationship. And the same way, like, what do you want to incentivize? SDR's job is not just to book any meetings, right? We need to book qualified meetings, and we call them SQLs, like sales qualified leads or sales qualified meetings, but they only get qualified uh, after account executives takes that call, right? So account executives convert leads into qualified opportunities. And that's when you get your bonus. So, having this strong SDR account executive relationship is so important just for everyone in the organization, right?
No, for sure. And I think a point you touched on there, which is what I forgot to say, is it's all about value, right? Like some orgs, the AEs look down on the SDRs, as you mentioned, which isn't great. But I think you can sort of, combat that just by positioning yourself as a person of value, if that makes sense. So if you speak to your AE and you explain, look, obviously I want to make the money, but my job is to make sure you do amazing. Like the better you do, the better it looks on me. If you're closing tons of qualified meetings, it's because I've booked them. We're together in this. Like I want to be successful and I will be successful because you're successful. So what's a great meeting to you? Understanding what they like, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to send you the notes? And positioning yourself as someone with value, again, not just sort of sending them whatever meetings just to try smash your numbers, but actually providing value to them, then you'll get that relationship.
Yeah, yeah. And let me just ask you, Aaron, how many SDRs do you have now sourcing, let's say, your pipeline? Like, do you have like one guy working or several of them? How is that? What's the setup like in Revolut?
So it's a big team. It's me, myself, and I. No, but on a serious note, I'm a full cycle AE. So I literally do everything. I do the outbound like an SDR. So I'm still, in the trenches, if you would say, prospecting, dealing with them, and then I'm sort of booking my own meetings in a way. So yeah, I am everything. I'm the SDR, the AE, the AM. So yeah, full
Is it
cycle for
is it
myself.
is it possible to be everything? I mean, most probably it's not gonna stay like that forever. I assume that you would have some support from real SDRs who, folks that do prospecting and are in trenches like day by day. And at one moment, you will be taking a full sales cycle responsibility. But most probably skipping the first part. Is that how it's going to turn out in your org? Or
Yeah, it's a bit interesting. Like the sales team is obviously huge in terms of Revolut, and I'm pretty sure it's been this way from the start in terms of full cycle AEs. And again, I know it's sort of the norm where you have the SDR just booking the meetings for you, but weirdly enough, I like the SDR side of it. Like I don't, I think for myself, and it comes to any sort of title or position upgrade, I don't view it as okay. Now my title is an AE. I'm too good to do the SDR task, right? Like I never have that mindset where I look down on prospecting or think, "Oh, I'm an AE, I shouldn't do that." Because when it comes down to it, if I'm sourcing my own pipe, I'm fully responsible for my results, if that makes sense. Like I'm not going, "Oh, my SDR didn't give me qualified meetings." It's all on me. Uh, so even if I did have an SDR, I'd still be sourcing. I think that's super important to make sure you are actually gaining your own pipe because you can't just rely on other people in sales, right? Like you have to be a hunter. You have to get it yourself.
Yeah, I just like your mindset. Obviously, you've been SDR. You started your career in tech sales as SDR, and now you can, kind of benefit from this, let's say, early start because you understand what is it take, to source your own pipeline, and you are like still doing it. So this is just awesome, and it's probably the what drives your success overall, And I don't know, most of my guests were selling in enterprise, and so are there some major differences with small medium business, mid market, enterprise sales in terms of the volume? Obviously, yes, we know that the average deal size contracts value is different, but like you close 81 deals there, that's just huge number, for enterprise, but you close most of them in like small small business, right? And like, so what are probably, some differences within those, industries?
The main difference is it's something you mentioned when we were talking about the pitch framework. Like different things work for different sizes. So for enterprise, my pitch framework would be completely different because I haven't worked that much in enterprise. I closed a few enterprise deals, but as you mentioned, it was mainly SMB and mid market. And when it comes to sort of SMB mid market, the sort of deal cycle, like the speed is much faster. Like especially SMB, like I can instantly get in contact with the director. So I just give him a call, then I'm speaking to the CEO instead of enterprise where, I get a gatekeeper and I have to wait and then multi-thread and it's this huge process. So when it comes to S&B, that's why I like calling with them a lot more because I know that I can just get to the decision maker. There's no fluff. It's like if I pick up the phone, I can speak to him. Whereas, as you mentioned, if I'm talking to Fortune 500 companies, I can't just pick up the phone and bell Jeff Bezos. So yeah, that's probably the main thing.
Yeah. And it's just good that you've done all pretty much throughout your career, so you can make this comparison and really align to like different ICP and personas. So I think this is kind of helping you a lot. And slowly, Aaron, we have to wrap up, and I would probably like that to finish with some rapid fire question if you are ready.
Sounds good to me.
All right. So let's start with the first one. What's the best SDR skill?
I mentioned it earlier, but I'll say it again, coachability, in my opinion. If you have the skill to sort of learn and take constructive criticism, you'll do great.
I love that one. So what would be the best SDR creator to follow?
Oh, great question. Give server a follow. But no, in terms of SDR creators, in terms of SDRs themselves, I don't have too many, but one person I would highly recommend, he's not from the UK, is Troy Munson. He posts a lot of great content. He's a AE, but he posts great content for SDRs and AEs. A few other, honorable mentions, we can say Brian Lamanna, etc. Just the classic ones, just because their frameworks and systems work great.
I have to say that some of my guests are probably among my favorite list. I don't know, from UK, Chris Risson.
Do you know what's funny? So I was actually gonna say him, but I didn't want to butcher his second name, so then I just give up. But no,
Yeah, he was great. And I don't know, James Bissell maybe is another guy.
yeah, the V ex VP of sales.
James Bissell is 2 times VP of sales, so very proud about them. So let's move on. What's your favorite SDR channel? Email, cold call, LinkedIn, maybe video, something else?
Yeah, I'd say cold calling for sure, as I mentioned earlier.
Yeah, I bet you know. And you explain why, so it's really obvious. What's your favorite maybe email or cold call opener?
Yeah, so in terms of cold calling, obviously I'm gonna say permission based because that's what I use mainly. But when it comes to email, in terms of opener, I don't have a specific opener, but framework, I'd probably say the Ops framework by Brian Lamanna. Sort of observation, and then that's the sort of opening, a relevant, personalized sort of trigger for why you're getting in contact.
Do you have a call to action in your first email?
I do, yes. Just a soft one though, quite basic.
I'm surprised.
How is it you normally do it? Just out of curiosity.
Honestly, with my first email, with a cold email, I really try to avoid call to action. It's more like a soft call to action, more like call to interest. So I would probably ask if this is relevant. Would you like to learn more about this?
Maybe there's been a confusion because my CTA is worth a chat or, is this relevant? Like just something I don't like, do you want to book a meeting? Like,
Yeah. Okay. That was my point. So it's more like a soft call to action, right? Rather than like clear one saying like, how about next Tuesday, 2 p.m., for I rather try to avoid that one with the first email, mainly due to deliverability, but I also want to build some relationship and start conversation and, obviously provide a bit more content and bring more, value for my prospects and just to understand if there is a use case or not, and it's, I usually like to say that the idea of a first email is really not to book the meeting, but it's to start conversation
Just
more,
to get
right?
a response. Exactly, exactly. Yeah, like 100%. I was waiting for you to finish to say that. So yeah, 100% agree.
Yeah, yeah. Same here. And probably at the end, where can people find you?
Yeah, so there's no Instagram or anything, just on LinkedIn at the minute. Maybe in the future we'll see. But no, so the LinkedIn's obviously just my name, Aaron Reeves. Feel free to give me a follow if anyone wants to connect to
Amazing,
chat with anyone.
amazing. Especially that Aaron has big plans on LinkedIn. He wants to start building personal brand, and usually one thing, Aaron, I keep saying people about building personal brand on LinkedIn. If I was Elon Musk, would you respond on my message?
I would.
You would, and I don't have to be Elon Musk, but you need to know me before I even reach out. And that, so if I'm not stranger to you, you will respond, right? But if I feel like a stranger, you're probably not going to respond. So when people ask me, why do I need to build personal brand and I don't know, post regularly and write comments and hit all this, I don't want to do that. And I just keep telling them, you want to make sure people know you before you even reach out to them. That's when the conversion really happens at the high rates. So once again, I would really like to encourage you just to keep going. I read some of your posts, and you are bringing a great value, especially for people from SDRs, but also account executives. And I think that you can grow your audience, and because you have expertise to share, and and LinkedIn is really about giving, giving for free. And at the end, obviously, you will get something without even asking for that, right?
No, exactly. And just sort of chiming on from what you said, like I've only been posting 6 weeks and I've gone from like 100 followers to 3,700 now. And within that time, as you mentioned, the benefits from social selling talk for themselves. Like CEOs, directors message me saying, "Oh, your content's been really helpful." Then I sort of flip it into pitching my product and stuff. So yeah, anyone who's on the fence about posting on LinkedIn, even if you don't think you have anything to share, please do it. The benefits massively outweigh the non-existent negatives. So fully
Sounds
agree,
good.
sir.
And then you're gonna be a guest on this podcast one day, just like Aaron, man. I met you on the LinkedIn and now we are, chatting live. So I guess that's another benefit. So Aaron, once again, thank you so much for your time. I think that the audience enjoyed it and you really brought great insights about tech sales and obviously a challenging roles that we have both as an SDR and account executives. It's not easy. We're not gonna lie, everyone. The last week it's been very challenging with all these layoffs and obviously economic downturn. So it's been tough, and so I'm just glad that you share some firsthand experiences and that people can relate and probably learn something. So once again, thank you for being with us.
No, massively appreciate it. I've really enjoyed the conversation.